I'm a Rolling Stones fanatic, and Moonlight Mile is the 10th song on one of the Rolling Stones albums, and it's really just about a guy trying to get back home to his wife or his family. He's trying to get back home to somebody, and he is just living to be lying by her side. But it's just another moonlight mile on down the road, which I just find beautiful, gorgeous, poetic lines. And I thought that the book Moonlight Mile was really about Patrick wishing he could just be with his family, wishing he could just be home, wishing he could leave this violent world behind, and the steps he takes, I think in a pretty subtle way, but the steps he takes as the book progresses, just to get home, just to be home, and to put the darker aspects of the world in his rearview mirror. I grew up in Dorchester. Dorchester is the largest section of Boston. It's working class to poor. People from Dorchester tend to have a bit of a chip on their shoulder, even more so than the average Bostonian, which is saying something. My neighborhood was Irish-Polish when I grew up. Now it's Vietnamese. And there's sections of Dorchester that are predominantly black, and there are sections of Dorchester that are predominantly white. It's a very interesting place to come from, and I don't think I'd be a writer if I didn't grow up in Dorchester. First off, I grew up in a very storytelling culture. It was a bar culture. People went to bars and they told great stories. There was a high premium placed on how well you could tell a story, how funny you could make it, how authentic it was. These were all things that I think I brought to my storytelling. I also grew up very early with a sense of class distinction because of how people reacted if you said you were from Dorchester and the look they got in their eyes. I was 9 when they forcibly desegregated the Boston Public Schools and the neighborhoods all exploded, so that gave me a very strong interest in social issues. Questions about how we treat children in the home and in the society. That was a central obsession in my work. There was nothing planned about the return of Patrick and Angie. They had gone quiet on me for about 10 years, and then Patrick just started knocking on the door again. I knew I'd been itching to do a little bit of topical commentary and hadn't been able to. And maybe he came back just because of that, to scratch that itch. The reason I went with a type of sequel to Gone Baby Gone was because I thought that was the case that had never been settled. That was a book that was very much about the idea that we haven't solved child abuse, so I can't write a book in which that specific case was neatly tied up. The fun thing about doing Patrick and Angie is they're often the divided sides of myself. So I get to look at an issue from 2 different sides of the fence. There's the emotional side and there's the rational side. And that's duality in the author. It's nice to have them back. I mean, that was certainly the experience I had while writing it, and you hope when you have an experience when you write that it translates to the experience of the reader as they read. I think if you're having fun when you write a book, it tends to be a fun book to read.